Every time you make a mistake, something inside you collapses. Not just the error itself, but the story you immediately tell yourself about what that error means about who you are. Most people have never been taught the difference between correcting themselves and destroying themselves. And that gap, that invisible gap between the two, is exactly where lives either move forward or get permanently stuck. By the end of this video, you will understand not just how to change course, but how to do it without leaving damage behind. There is something waiting at the end of this conversation that will completely reframe how you see every mistake you have ever made. The moment something goes wrong, a decision, a relationship, a goal that slipped the mind does something automatic and almost violent. It reaches for blame. It looks for a guilty party. And most of the time it finds you, not gently, not constructively, but with a kind of internal prosecution that would be considered cruel if it came from someone else. This is the hidden struggle underneath what looks like a productivity problem or a discipline problem or a motivation problem. The real issue is not that you keep making mistakes. The real issue is that every time you do, you punish yourself in ways that make the next mistake more likely, not less. Think about what that means. The very mechanism you believe is protecting you, the self-criticism, the guilt, the shame spiral, is actually the mechanism that keeps you repeating the same cycles. And yet most people hold onto it as if letting go of self-punishment means letting go of standards. So here is the question that most people never stop to ask. What if you could hold yourself to the highest standards without using suffering as a tool to get there? Self-correction is a skill, a precise, learnable, repeatable skill. And like any skill, it has a right way and a wrong way to be practiced. The wrong way is familiar to almost everyone. You identify the mistake, you feel terrible about it, you rehearse it mentally several times, you question your worth, and eventually, if exhaustion allows you to try again, the right way looks almost dangerously simply by comparison. But here's what nobody tells you about the people who actually improve consistently, who compound their results year after year and seem to bounce back faster than anyone around them. They are not harder on themselves, they are clearer with themselves. And that distinction is everything. There is a moment in every setback, a small window, easy to miss, where the direction of your response gets decided. In that window, most people step directly into emotional quicksand. They replay what happened, they amplify the feeling, they start constructing a narrative about what this says about their character. And the longer they stay in that quicksand, the harder it becomes to move. The emotion that lives underneath every single one of these moments is shame. Not regret, not disappointment, shame. The quiet, corrosive belief that the mistake is not something you did, but something you are. And shame, unlike almost any other emotion, doesn't motivate change, it paralyzes it. The people who master self-correction have found, consciously or not, a way to extract the information from a mistake without absorbing its identity. They ask different questions, not why am I like this, but what happened and what does it tell me? Not how could I be so stupid, but what adjustment does this moment require? The shift is subtle. The results are not. Now, here's where the real complexity begins, because knowing this intellectually and actually doing it are two completely different things. When you're in the middle of a failure, when the emotional temperature is high and your ego is bruised, the intellectual knowledge evaporates. Something older and more automatic takes over, which means that self-correction as a skill has to be trained not in moments of crisis, but in advance. The most effective performers in any field, athletes, executive, artists, parents, all share one invisible habit. They have developed what could be called a correction protocol, a pre-decided, almost mechanical set of internal moves they make the moment something does not go as planned. Step 1, pause before the story begins. Step 2, separate the facts from the interpretation. Step 3, identify the one adjustment that would change the outcome next time. Step 4, make a concrete commitment to that adjustment, not a vague intention, a specific behavioral commitment. This is not emotional bypassing. This is emotional precision. There is a significant difference. You are not pretending the mistake didn't hurt. You are choosing not to let the hurt expand into something that rewrites your identity. And this is where so many well-meaning attempts at self-improvement collapse. People confuse accountability with self-attack. They believe that if they are not suffering, they are not taking responsibility. But accountability has nothing to do with how much pain you generate. It has everything to do with what you do with what happened. You can acknowledge a mistake fully, feel the real weight of it, understand its consequences, and still choose to respond like someone who believes in their own capacity to grow. In fact, that combination, full acknowledgement plus forward movement, is the only version of accountability that actually produces lasting change. Here's what consistent compounding growth looks like from the inside. It is not a smooth, unbroken line of successes. It is a rapid oscillation between imperfection and correction. The key variable is not how often you drift, it is how quickly and cleanly you return. That speed of return, that efficiency of correction is the real measure of mastery in any domain of life. The people who seem to progress effortlessly are not making fewer mistakes. They are shortening the gap between mistake and a judgment. They have trained their recovery, and their self-worth is no longer tied to the outcome of any single moment, which means the correction can happen without the collapse. You were promised something at the beginning of this video, a reframe for every mistake you have ever made. And here it is. Every time you have been too hard on yourself, every time you spiraled into shame instead of moving into correction, you are not being weak. You were doing the only thing you had been tough to do. The harshness was never a character flaw. It was a strategy you inherited from culture, from upbringing, from a world that confused punishment with progress. But you now understand something different. Adjust without punishing, return without collapsing, correct without condemning. That is not softness. That is the most disciplined thing a person can do.